Dr. Murray, Uncivilized Vitality, and this video will be about configuring your poncho in another type of shelter with a new piece of equipment that we just got in and a DIY version you can do at home. Okay, so we just got back from the snake hunt, or the snakeless hunt in Pennsylvania this weekend. The wife went with us this year, and a couple of members that hadn't been before, and it was it was quite rainy in the mountains of Pennsylvania. Thunderstorm warnings, even I think there's a tornado watch at one point, flash flood. No snakes. We just walked around in the rain for 5 or 6 hours in the rain, humidity. I think the only thing we caught was a gecko. Hopefully we'll get a video of the snakeless hunt up later this month, or whatever month this is. But what I wanted to talk about today is it reminded me how valuable it is to have ponchos with us. So the poncho is a super versatile piece of kit. This is a standard USGI size. I've actually got my little toggle cord on the inside. I'm just going to get that out of the way for a minute. And I'm going to show you how to configure your poncho into a quick shelter. So usually in the summer weather, you can travel pretty light, have a pretty light kit. When you're out, you don't need a full tarp or anything, at least in Michigan. It is a good idea to have a bug net. I still got to do that bug net video. But it's a good idea when you're out camping, instead of just cowboy camping or open air camping, to have at least a backup in case it does rain. And usually what I'll do is just rely on my poncho if it looks like it's going to rain. And we've got several other videos where you stake it out as a lean-to, or a wedge, a plow point. You can make an A-frame. There's different ways you can set up your poncho. One of the older ways is called an alpha tent. Make an alpha tent out of your poncho. You'll use old-fashioned, I'm just going to step out of camera here and grab those for a minute, old-fashioned tent poles from a tent you no longer need, or something. You can configure these tent poles, and you can use the corner grommets of your poncho, or if you have a non-USGI poncho, you can cut and measure tent poles to the appropriate length of your poncho and punch some grommets in it. But I have a poncho that's already prepared, and these are the DIY version. We'll go over those in a minute so you can see the cheaper version. But what I have done is ordered a set of the Alpha Tent poles from Self Reliance Outfitters, and even though this box was gigantic, this is what it is. So they come in this nice heavy-duty cloth carrying case, and you see it's not much, and they're aluminum. They weigh hardly anything. And together with my pitch kit, let me see. So here's my small pitch kit that I normally have in my bag. It's got a few stakes and some cordage to pitch up my full-size tarp, or fly a tarp over my hammock, or make a shelter out of my poncho. With the addition of these tarps, which weigh nothing in my bag, and you can see that they easily fit down into a wand pocket on the side. For instance, this is my Hill People gear, Lindy. I can just slide those down the side, or even all the way in the bag. All right, so they're not that obnoxious to carry or keep with me, and then I can make a shelter out of my poncho, an alpha tent. So I'm going to disregard that bag for a minute. The couple neat things about this: one, the individual length of the tent pole is shorter, as opposed to my heavier fiberglass and longer. These are short weight, short length aluminum. And instead of the makeshift grommet stoppers I have on the end, these have these little aluminum rings that are hex keyed onto the appropriate depth. All right, I probably would go around, I just got this, so I'd probably go around, tighten these in a little bit. And the other cool thing is when they all come apart and you get them all together, let me just do that real quick. There's another permanent piece on here. So instead of lashing them together, did I get them all? Yeah, I did. There's this aluminum block here. I think you can see, right? This little aluminum key. It's offset. So one end of the poles are longer than the second spot. And you'll see why this little piece is here in a minute. It actually worked out pretty good. So it makes an unequal X, right? The lower legs are slightly longer than the top legs. So what you'll do is you lay this out in that long X on your poncho, with your poncho laying face down. Actually, I'm gonna put the headroom at that end because I have my poncho tie at this side. So we're gonna lay that out. You put the grommets right over the end of that little stopper. I don't know if you have to zoom in to see that. And just take your grommet, flip it right over that little end of the pole. Do that here at this corner. You might have to push that in a little bit, make sure it stays. Then we go down to this end. And you're gonna have to bend the pole in a little bit. Whoops, came out of there. And I'm gonna bend my pole down in there a little bit and hook that grommet over. Now I go here and it's a little stretchy. I'm gonna force that pole down, kind of bend that in, and put that last grommet over the corner. Now I've made this little structure out of my tarp, or out of my poncho, and it's got a little internal frame. Right? So this is a so-called alpha tent. Then you could use several different configurations for using your alpha tent to sleep out with. You can, of course, pull the hood shut, wrap the string around that. You can guy the hood out to keep a little headroom, doesn't matter. I could even put a trekking pole on the inside and open my hood up for a little ventilation inside my alpha tent if I wanted to. Or even suspend my alpha tent by tying that to a branch overhead, staking that down. Several different ways you can do it so that that doesn't leak on you, kind of defeats the purpose. Right? So as a lightweight field expedient shelter, or even as my main source of shelter for the evening, with a couple of other pieces of equipment, I've got a lightweight summer shelter kit. Okay. Now, I could run a ridge line and then attach these front two corners to the ridge line and stake those back two corners down with the pitch kit and make kind of a vaulted lean-to. I could run the middle grommets and stake the corners down with some guy outlines and make sort of a flying or vaulted A-frame. The lean-to configuration is probably the best. You want to keep it low because this will catch the wind, right? Lots of things you could do. I can roll out a little cut down scrap of old reflective blanket and a sleeping pad on there, and then I've got as a blanket or a sleeping bag, Helicon Tex Swagman roll that we've used in a lot of videos. Right. And then I could lay down, and as a lightweight summer shelter, this would keep the rain off of me. I could lower this down even more. I could stake this all the way to the ground and just curl up inside and have a completely covered shelter if the weather was really bad, right? I could pull that down. Oh, you're trying to see me? All right, but I can hold this up and you can see that it's offset a little bit, so I've got a little more headroom up here. And in this way, let's say I decided to cowboy camp, but it looked like it would rain overnight. I could use I forget what they're called, the tent poles in this configuration that's designed to fit a USGI dimension poncho. And then I could just make the so-called alpha tent. I could raise up all four corners on stakes and lash them to stakes about a foot off the ground and make sort of a raised canopy to sleep under. There's all sorts of ways to configure the alpha tent after you've got those poles. And you'll see in there that there's plenty of room to cover, especially if I were to sleep on a slight diagonal. There's plenty of room to be completely covered, as long as you keep your ground cloth in so you're not getting some runoff. For somebody up to about 6 foot tall, have plenty of room. don't want to call it an emergency shelter, but in a kind of a lightweight, like it might rain or get some dew on me overnight, kind of a shelter that way. So this is called an alpha tent because you can make this out of a piece of gear. Oh, it's a plane. All right, I guess you get the delightful sounds of a jet coming through. So you make this alpha tent, low profile. It uses equipment you've already got with you, which is your poncho. You just throw the poles in your bag. They weigh nothing, they don't take up much space. And in a hurry, you could set up another tent. You could even throw a little, stake all four corners down and maybe put a post right here to make a stick to lift that to get a little ventilation, or make yourself a little porch, right? The alpha tent. And you got these tent poles that are pre-made and pre-measured from the Self Reliance outfitters. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. Now these are running a retail about $49, I want to say. So a little spendy for tent poles, but they are really high quality. They've got these neat little stopper rings, and they've got this aluminum block here in the middle that keeps the poles crossing right where you want them. You could also make do with a piece of paracord or a simple, what we used to do is just take a hair tie, just double it over, or heavy duty Ranger band, and just slide that down the poles where you want them to cross. That'll work just as well, right? But if you want something that's prefabricated, it's lightweight, really good quality, really nice quality. It comes with a nice little heavy duty sack to carry kit, right? And you can throw that right in with your pitch kit. So in the off chance that I have to turn my poncho into a makeshift shelter to keep the majority of the rain off, pairs nicely with my pitch kit. And if you haven't seen the pitch kits, we have another video on that. Pitch kit consists of 4 glow-in-the-dark ABS, a couple heavy duty, so I have 6 stakes. I have 4 6-foot guy out lines that are reflective, 2 elastic Prusiks with a tactical toggle, and then about a 30 or 40 foot hank of paracord as a ridge line. And for the most part, I can use these components to fashion up my poncho into a shelter, or I use these to fly my normal tarp over my hammock, which is generally how I camp out. All right. So that's my pitch kit. I'm going to start adding in these tent poles I got with me. So I have them with me, and I can turn my poncho into an alpha tent. Now, if you don't want to spend $50 on a set of prefabricated poles, you can go to your local Meijer or Walmart or Amazon and get some fiberglass replacement poles for most tents. So these are very generic, and these will cost you about $10. So you buy a couple sets, now you're in for about 20 bucks. You sort of guesstimate the length, and then you can cut this fiberglass, and then here you can zoom in. I got this idea from, I forget who, very clever do-it-yourself channel on YouTube. So in order to make the little stoppers for the aluminum O-rings or the grommets, you can just get some green winged wire nuts, pull your elastic cord through the hole that comes already prefabricated, or the red ones are bigger, tie a little knot, and now I've got a little stopper that fits into the grommet and won't go through on my tarp. So let me show you how that would work. Let me see if I can do this without getting up. Sometimes I can, sometimes I cannot. All right, so stretch that out. And then I just sort of measured these. The only thing with the do-it-yourself $15 to $20 version of the Alpha tent poles is they're a little heavier, they're fiberglass, they're a little longer, and they just don't have the same fit and finish with my old do-it-yourself wing nuts. But you push the poles in there, get that. Basically has the same sort of setup. And there's an Alpha pole up. Yeah. So you can see without lashing these together here in the center, right? So I can maybe pull my hood through and lash those. But then you've got your Alpha tent with the do-it-yourself poles. Same thing, I can get right under here, I could tip this up, the front end up on a guy line in a lean-to configuration. I could stake all 4 corners down if the weather was really bad and stay under here. It's gonna get quite humid under there. Like I said, normally where the poles cross, it'd be a good idea to put like a rubber band or something, maybe a piece of paracord right there where they cross, right here where they cross, to keep them in that position. You could use your little waist cinch line to maybe lash those there, or a piece of guy line out of your pitch kit, keep that in place. That's why that little aluminum connector block on those ones from the Pathfinder school were so neat, because it's kind of all made and you see it went up pretty quick. So there are a couple of versions of poles you can make and use to take with you. I know that I've seen some other people say you just cut some slender saplings and bend those in there to make the poles. I've tried it, never works. The poles break, can't find the right ones. It's just too much work to hope I find the area where I'd have that kind of natural resource. So let me show you side by side the 2 poles. Pole sets you can use to make your... All right, so you can see a definite difference in the length of the poles. All right, we could have weighed them, but these are significantly heavier than this lightweight aluminum bundle that goes in this neat little bag. I might take the bag and sew that to that aluminum kit so I can keep my pitch kit connected. All right, maybe I'll sew that as just sort of a rider pocket on that bag. And there's plenty of space in there too. I could stuff some other things down there if I needed, if I thought that would be good. So I've got my poncho. Which I'm gonna have with me anyway. All right, so I go out for a quick overnight, or we're doing a quick scout where we're gonna be walking around a lot, moving, like when we go to Manitou Island or something, we're gonna be moving around. I don't wanna carry maybe my hammock because it's in the early season when the bugs aren't too bad, but it's not cold enough to justify a full tarp and a hammock. I take the ground pad if I'm feeling really wanting some comfort. Just slash that to the back. I've got this little piece of reflective tarp, which is left over from one that's been more abused. That'll keep me a little vapor barrier from the ground. Pitch kit and some poles, and either a blanket or a Swagman roll. And this would make a nice lightweight summer shelter kit that you could get various options with. Usually I would just lay down on the green pad, the reflective blanket, throw the Swagman over me, or maybe just cover myself up like a bivy sack with my poncho. And the Swagman will buckle inside the poncho with the poles. Probably could have shown that, but I'll do that in another video. And then you've got sort of an insulated dome over top of you. You combine that with a substantially sized surplus bug net, and man, you got everything you need to camp out without taking up much space in your pack or a lot of weight. And then you're kind of prepared for those different emergencies. So the main part of the video was the new, I wish I knew what he called them, from Self Reliance Outfitters, pre-made poles to just flip up at what's called an alpha tent, which is made out of a USGI poncho. And if you don't want to spend the money, you can DIY yourself with some leftover tent poles. Maybe you have an old tent, or you can get replacement poles from Meijer or a Walmart, or even online. A couple wing nuts and some elastic cord and you're good to go. So if you have some other ways, or you'd be interested in seeing some ways that I could set the alpha tent up once it's configured with the poles, let me know. We'll do some of those videos here pretty soon. Where are we going next? We got some events coming up this summer where we want to move light, so we're going to probably keep the alpha tent as my main shelter then. So like, share, subscribe. Rendell says to smash the like button. See, I did it twice, Rendell. And then that's it.